Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I'm going to be doing a reaction to the Mafia The Old Country trailer. So we have a full trailer of the game now. We can see some cutscenes, some action, and I've seen this trailer before. This trailer looks absolutely amazing. And I'm actually going to try to break down a lot of the stuff in the trailer for you guys and explain it. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I don't normally do breakdowns and reactions to like trailers, but this is one game that I'm really looking forward to. And what I will say about this game is this game might have the best story in any game in 2025. Now, GTA 6 is probably obviously going to win Game of the Year in 2025, but it might win Game of the Year for just overall gameplay. But when it comes to story, Mafia The Old Country could actually beat GTA 6 in terms of a better story. So this game, really looking forward to this game, takes place in Sicily in the early 1900s, when you see the Sicilian Mafia, when they start becoming really strong and really powerful. And these guys, the Sicilian Mafia, these guys were the strongest criminal organization in the entire world at that time. So these guys were very, very powerful. So I hope that you guys enjoy this reaction. And for what I'm wearing here, I'm going to be doing the Yakuza 0 playthrough starting tomorrow, which I hope that you guys enjoy watching. But anyways, let's react to this, and let's break this down.
All of the men in this room are bound by blood. This is a family. And in this family, we follow a code of honor. It is not forgiving. To betray one is to betray all. Do you wish to commit yourself, your life, to this family? I do.
The countryside looks
To
beautiful.
become a man of honor, repeat these words. I swear my loyalty to this family. My flesh must burn like this saint. If I do not keep my oath, welcome, Enzo.
So here we go. Okay, so let's break this trailer down now here. So this is the Mafia family here, and it looks like the main character is going to get made here. This is the initiation ceremony. This is the main character that we're playing as, Enzo. And I'm very happy that we're playing as somebody that's not one of the older Mafia characters, because we know how Salieri's story ends. We don't know how Enzo's story is going to end. So this is just somebody different, so I'm happy that this is a brand new character. Okay, this right here, this gun right here, it's a little hard to see it here. This gun right here, this is a Carcano M91. That's what this is. This is the main rifle that Italy used in World War I and World War II. Now, the Carcano, a lot of you guys are probably going to recognize it from Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. But this makes sense seeing this gun here. It's an Italian rifle, so it's going to be in the game. But about this gun is, I'm pretty sure that this is the M91 TS, which is the Truppe Speciali, which was, this version was issued to soldiers that had stayed in artillery, that would stay with machine gun crews, they would stay with mortars. This is the version that was used for that. And I actually own a Carcano in real life, but I own the Carcano M41, which is the World War II version, because the Carcano has so many different variants. There's the cavalry carbine, there's the carbine version, there's the original 1891 long rifle, there's the M41, but I'm pretty sure that this is the Truppe Speciali carbine. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But about the Carcano is, the Carcano, what's unique about it is that it holds 6 rounds. versus most other bolt-action rifles in this time period would hold 5. And another thing about the Carcano is that the Carcano cannot be single-loaded. So it can't be single-loaded like you have with the Car 98, the Mos Nagant, the Springfield 1903, because the Carcano can only be loaded through stripper clips. So if you were to put only one bullet in, you could probably fit it into the chamber, but if you were putting one other bullet in, you would have to put it in a clip. And they would use Mannlicher clips. So you would put it inside the clip, and if you had to put one bullet, you still had to use the clip. So it wasn't like other rifles where you could put single bullets in. You always had to load it with a clip. That's the thing about the Carcano. And about the Carcano is that the Carcano, one weird thing about the gun is that the Carcano was mass-produced with carbines. Like, the Italians mass-produced so many carbines with these things. And the reason that I say that that's weird is because carbines were... most armies produced carbines for their rifles, but the standard issue rifle was typically the regular long rifle version. But the Italians had produced so many carbines. I think there was more carbines than long rifle Carcanos made. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but if you ever look around for Carcanos, you'll see that you will see more carbines out there than you will see the long rifle versions, because the Italians have just made so many carbine versions of it. And about the Carcano is in this time period, the Carcano actually used rounded bullets. So 6.5 Carcano, the bullets were rounded. They didn't actually use sharp-tipped bullets until the late 1930s. And last thing I'll say about the Carcano is the Carcano is not the most well-known as being Italy's main rifle in World War I and World War II. You would think that it would be the most well-known as being the Italy's rifle in World War I and World War II, but no. It's actually the most infamous for the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So this is actually the rifle that Lee Harvey Oswald used. And Lee Harvey Oswald, he ordered the Carcano through a magazine. I think that's how he got it. And he used the M38 version. So he used the version right before, the M38 carbine version that was made right before World War I. So right before World War II, 1938. But that's what the Carcano is the most known for. It's the most known for being the gun that assassinated John F. Kennedy. And this rifle came out in 1891. And so we can kind of narrow down when the game takes place based on that. A lot of the Carcanos also had folding bayonets, which is why I believe that this is the Truppe Speciale, because you do not see a folding bayonet on this thing here. This guy here appears to be the boss, or the Don. Now, we don't have a name for him yet. Some people think that he's possibly Salieri, but I don't know. I don't think that he's Salieri. We don't know what year the game takes place, and if he was Salieri, I think the game would have given us some more hints towards him being Salieri. So this you have an opera murder here, and you have a lot of really rich people up here. This looks like a very fancy balcony where he's watching from. Now, what I will say about this is chances are this actually might not be in Sicily. This actually might be taking place in North Italy. So there might be like a mission where you go up to North Italy. Now, this is very important because Mafia the Old Country is probably going to teach you about this. But historically, Italy, because Italy became unified as a country in the 1860s when the Monarchy of Italy unified the country. But before that, for hundreds of years, Italy was different city-states. So people were typically loyal to their city-states. So they would be loyal to, like, for example, like Venice. They would be loyal to the city-state of Venice, which Venice was basically like its own government. And they would have like a big wall around the city. And they generally spoke the same language from city to city, but they had different dialects of their language. And people would identify with their city. So they wouldn't say, back then people wouldn't really, back like hundreds of years ago, especially like in the Renaissance era, people wouldn't say I'm Italian. People would say I'm Venetian, like example, like as from their city-state. But people were loyal to their city-states, and the Italian identity did not become a thing until, I'd say, the late 1800s. That's when it started becoming, when the Italian monarchy unified the country. And even when the Italian monarchy unified the country, Italy was basically like 3 countries. And even to this day, it's still like 3 countries. And those 3 countries are North Italy, South Italy, and Sicily. So even though there's one country of Italy, the reason I say it's like 3 countries is because the country has been so divided. Like, people would identify as Northern Italian, Southern Italian, or Sicilian. And the main cause of this division, the reason that the country was so divided, is the Northerners. The Northerners are the ones who caused the most amount of division, because in the northern Italy is where you had the big cities, you had the really rich people, the aristocrats would live up there. The aristocrats, the nobles, you had the rich businessmen, the rich merchants, they lived up there. And what would happen is they treated the South like garbage. They treated the southern Italy really badly, and they looked down on the southern Italians. They looked at them like they were peasants. They looked at them like they were nothing, like they weren't even worthy of talking to them. So the northern aristocrats treated the southern Italians like absolute garbage. And Sicily was even poorer than southern Italy. So southern Italy was poor, but Sicily was the poorest region of the country. There was just so much poverty. And the southern Italians, despite being looked down on by the northern Italians being treated like crap, southern Italians even looked down on Sicilians, and they treated Sicilians like crap. So even southern Italians did not like Sicilians. So northern Italians looked down on southern Italians, and southern Italians looked down on Sicilians. So basically, the country is like divided into three different regions: North Italy, South Italy, and Sicily. And this is actually the reason that the mafia became so powerful in Sicily. And the Sicilian mafia at this time is the most powerful criminal organization in the world. Today, the Mexican cartel is probably the most powerful criminal organization in the world. But back then, it was the Sicilian mafia. And these guys were scary. They were, throughout Europe, people were terrified of them, because it's how much power the Sicilian mafia had. But one thing that people don't ask is, they don't ask, why did the Sicilian mafia become so powerful? That's what people don't ever ask. They ask, how did they become so powerful? Why did this happen? The reason for that is corruption. Because it was corruption and poverty. Northern Italy never helped Sicily. They were so rich, and they treated Sicily like garbage. They treated Sicily like crap. And they didn't develop Sicily. They didn't, build up the roads, fix the infrastructure in the town, try to raise people's living standards. They didn't do that. And so people lived in absolute poverty. Even police officers in Sicily got paid barely anything. And so when you have a society like that, where there's absolute poverty, the government doesn't care about people, police officers are paid very little, that is basically a breeding ground for a corruption and organized crime. And that's how organized crime became so powerful. These dons became so powerful that they basically threatened the power of the government of Italy at that time. They became so powerful through the corruption and the poverty, because the government of Italy wasn't doing anything to help Sicily. So these dons became so powerful. Now, the dons had different ways of ruling. There was just so many dons. Some dons were just people who were just absolutely terrified of them. Like, people were just so scared of them. Like, they were just evil, sadistic, horrible people. There was other dons that were, I would say, more benevolent, but they were still scumbags, where they did things for the poor, and they won the hearts and minds of the poor. And some of these dons, the reason that they would help the poor people, it wasn't because they sympathized with the poor, but it was because they wanted the poor on their side. Because if the poor are on their side, and the majority of the population in Sicily are poor, if the population is on their side, it's very difficult for the government to do anything about them. And so these dons would organize public events, maybe carnivals for people in these towns. Maybe they would give them food, feed the poor. And because of that, the people would look up to these dons, and they would see them as heroes. But in reality, the dons were actually just using the poor. And when the government of Italy was trying to get rid of the dons, they weren't trying to get rid of them because the main reason they were trying to get rid of them wasn't because they were causing so much crime. It was because they were threatening the power of their government. That was pretty much why. So the government did not give a crap about Sicily at all. They didn't care about the poor in Sicily. But then when the mafia started becoming extremely powerful, that threatened their power, that's when they started caring at that point. So really, the reason that the Sicilian mafia became so powerful in Italy, you can blame that on North Italy. It was North Italy's fault, because they should have helped Italy. They should have helped Sicily. They should have helped develop Sicily. But instead, they just ignored it. They looked down on them. They treated them like peasants. They treated them like garbage, like they were nothing. And so some of these mafia guys they grew up really poor. And they just absolutely despised the Northerners. They really hated Northerners. So that's why I'll say it was three different countries. And I will also add on here that this division happened also during World War II. Mussolini, I think he was from North Italy. I'm pretty sure he was from North Italy. Now, how Mussolini came to power in the 1920s, after World War I, most of the destruction during World War I actually happened in North Italy. So most of the battles that were fought in Italy were fought in North Italy during World War I, where World War II was actually fought in every province of Italy. But World War I was mostly fought in Northern Italy. And so in Northern Italy, what happened after World War I was there was towns that were destroyed. There was like railroad tracks that still hadn't been built. Schools had been blown up by like artillery, and the northern Italians were getting pissed. And the monarch at the time, King Emmanuel, he was scared that there was going to be a revolution that was going to happen. Mussolini became very popular at this time. He was an ultra-nationalist. He led the fascist party. He led he led the black shirts. So Mussolini became very popular around this time period. And Mussolini basically went to King Emmanuel and he told him, make me prime minister, which is essentially making him dictator, and I will fix all these problems for you. And King Emmanuel made Mussolini dictator of Italy. And that's how Italy was still a monarchy but had a dictator at the same time. That's how it happened. And then the rest is history, with Mussolini. But that divide still happened during World War II because Mussolini did not care for he didn't care for southern Italy. He didn't help southern Italy. He focused mostly on north and central Italy. And the mafia really hated Mussolini. And Mussolini tried to get rid of the mafia. He fought the mafia, but he was never able to fully get rid of the mafia. And the majority of the mafia was against Mussolini, but there was one Don that was actually working with Mussolini. So one of the mafia Dons was working with him. I forget the guy's name, but there was one mafia boss that did work with him. I remember that. Somebody might tell me in the comments who that mafia boss was that worked with Mussolini, but I remember there was one Don who did work with him. But Mussolini wasn't able to get rid of the mafia, and what happened was during the Allied landings, there was actually some mafia dons that actually ended up helping the Allies, getting intelligence for them when they were going through Sicily. And you see this in Mafia 2, but also you see this in Sniper Elite 4. So a lot of people miss the mafia in Sniper Elite 4 because it takes place in Italy. That you will actually see them as well. But yeah, that is that's it. I hope people aren't getting too bored of me explaining the history here, but that's one thing to keep in mind. It's really important because it's probably going to be mentioned in this game. How like the southern Italians, the Sicilians specifically, are just treated like absolute garbage. The rich in the north, they just look down on them. They treat them like peasants. They treat them like garbage. And this divide happened in the later stages of World War II as well, where most of the resistance fighters during World War II were Southern Italians. So most of the resistance fighters that resisted Mussolini were Southern Italians. And the fascists were mostly in control of North Italy. So when Germany invaded, Italy, when King Emmanuel, had Mussolini arrested, and then Germany when Germany released Mussolini from prison, they had him form the Italian Social Republic, and so the fascists were mostly centered in the north of Italy, where the southern Italy was more willing to cooperate with the Americans and the Allies, and you had most of their resistance members in that. And after World War II, what actually happened was there was a referendum in the country, and the referendum was to abolish the monarchy. And what happened was the majority of southern Italians actually voted to keep the monarchy, where the majority of northern Italians actually voted to abolish the monarchy. The monarchy ended up getting abolished. So more people voted for the monarchy to be abolished. And I find that kind of weird because the monarchy historically treated the southern Italians like absolute garbage. But the reason that southern Italians still voted for the monarchy, even though the monarchy had treated them like garbage, is because southern Italians were typically more traditional, and so they were more likely to believe in the monarchy, even if the monarchy was treating them badly. So that was the whole backstory behind that. Today there's still division in Italy. I'm not Italian, so if any of my Italian viewers, if you guys can tell me in the comments if the division still exists today. But as far as I know, there still is some division between North Italy, Southern Italy, and Sicily, but it's not as bad as it was back in the day. Because back in the day there was bad blood. There was really bad blood between them. Like people would jump each other from being from different parts of Italy. But like today, I know it's calmed down. It's not as bad, and the economic conditions in the south and Sicily have improved. But there still is some division. But anyways, let's keep watching this here. The graphics in this game are amazing. Okay, so this right here, this is the mafia initiation when you become a made man. So when you become a made man, you swear your oath of loyalty to the family, and you become a full member of the mafia. And at that point, you can never leave the mafia. You are with the mafia for the rest of your life until death. Now, you see this in Mafia 2 where Vito joins the when Vito joins the Falcones, and when he joins the Falcone crime family, what happens is they take a I think it was a card of Saint Mary, and they burn it, and then they also stab Vito's finger, and they pour a little bit of blood on it, and they burn it, and Vito basically swears to, be loyal to the family, or he will burn in hell, just like the card that's burning right in front of him. Now this is actually a real thing where different mafias do it different ways, but they would they typically had the ceremony where they had like the card of a saint, and what they would do is they would burn the saint card, and then they would stab the person, a little bit of blood would fall on it, and they would swear an oath of allegiance to the family. Now it's most commonly believed that the most common card I think they burn is Saint Mary, but they burn so many different saints, so it's not just Saint Mary that they burn. And this knife right here that's on the table, I am pretty sure that this is a stiletto switchblade. If I have that wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. But the stiletto was a knife that had actually been a blade that's been in Italy for over 500 years. And it wasn't until the last century that stilettos started becoming more common as switchblades. And the Mafia use these a lot. They use the stiletto switchblades a lot. Yeah, that's another image of it. I'm pretty sure that's a switchblade. Okay, so this here, I was a bit confused when I saw this the first time, what was going on here, but I think this is probably like a coal mine or some kind of mine, and it just shows you the horrid conditions that Sicilians went through. Like, they were very poor and they worked in these horrible industries. So this guy working in some kind of mine, and there's a collapse. And this is why the Mafia became so strong, specifically with Sicilians, because people were just so poor that they even turned to organized crime for help. Okay, this right here, this I recognize right here. This gun, I recognize the gun right away. This is a Bodeo 1889. This is a revolver that was actually used as, this was Italy's standard issue revolver up until World War I, where it was replaced by the Modello, which was a semi-automatic pistol. But this never really was fully replaced. It was still even used up until World War II, and even the Germans had actually used captured Modellos, captured Bodeos. So the Bodeo was made in 1889, and we kind of are more narrowing down the years. So it's in the early 1900s, but you can tell it's a Bodeo because the Bodeo actually does not have a trigger guard, and trigger guards are actually meant to protect the trigger from like getting caught on something and going off. And the Bodeo, I'm pretty sure it has a foldable trigger where the trigger will actually fold, but that's about the Bodeo. It's a single action revolver also, which single action that basically means is you have to cock back the hammer each time after each shot. And this right here, this is actually this little, I trying to remember what the name of it is called, but that's basically that little push thing. It basically ejects the spent casings out. So how that works is when you fire all shots out of the Bodeo, you push that little rod back, that little rod, it goes back and it basically ejects all of the casings out of the gun. But that was basically it. That was the Bodeo 1889. Also, people will probably know this gun from Battlefield 1. So, horses are going to be a very common thing in this game, and I will also the countryside looks beautiful. I hope the map is really big. But about the horses is, even we don't know the year this game takes place. We just know it's early 1900s. So my question is this before World War I or is this after World War I? But what I will say is that even if this game takes place in the 1920s, most people in Sicily at this time, they are going to be using a horse as a form of transportation. That's how most people are going to get around, is by horse. Because in the 1920s, even though most cities, people were driving around, a lot of people were driving around in cars this time, Sicily was very different. Sicily, there was just so much poverty that the most common form of transportation would be horses. Anybody who's driving around a car in this time period are going to be, they're going to be richer people, more upper class people who have much more money. So again, this is the initiation ritual we see right here. I'm not able to tell what guns they're using here in this frame. I think that Enzo has a Bodeo on him. But one other thing I noticed is that this looks like some kind of Roman, or possibly Greek monument. And this just shows you the rich history of Sicily right here. This is actually a great place for a mission, is some, abandoned Roman monument. What I'll say about this is that the Sicily is one of the most invaded places in Europe. Sicily, for hundreds of years, has been invaded by so many different people. There was the Greeks invaded Sicily. The Romans invaded Sicily. Carthage invaded Sicily. Normans invaded Sicily. Even the Vikings invaded Sicily. The Crusaders invaded Sicily. The Arabs invaded Sicily. The Ottomans invaded Sicily. The Barbary states, which were pirates, invaded Sicily. The French invaded Sicily. The Spanish invaded Sicily. The Germans during World War II invaded Sicily. So literally, and then the Allies came through Sicily also later on during World War II. So Sicily has actually been a very invaded country throughout its history, but it was its own kingdom at one point. It was a kingdom, and today it's part of Italy. It joined with Italy. It joined with Italy in the 1860s when Italy was fully unified, but throughout Sicily's history, it has had so many different invasions, and that's actually one of the reasons the culture is actually very different in Sicily than it is in like mainland Italy, and it's because of all the different conquests and all the different civilizations that have been in Sicily that they've developed their own unique culture over time. So we see cars, and again, is somebody who's driving around in cars like in this time in Sicily is going to have a lot of money. And most of the roads are not going to be paved in Sicily. Like I said, is that the North Italy treated Southern Italy like crap, and so there was a lot of infrastructure that was not developed in Sicily. But I don't know about cars that well. If anybody in the comments, if any of you guys know cars, if you know what kind of cars these are, please tell me what kind of car they are and what year they are. Because that'll probably help us narrow down exactly when the game takes place. Here we see that the stiletto switchblade, so we get another frame of that. That's the knife coming out. And I really hope this is not a cutscene. I really hope that we actually have some really good melee combat in this game. Okay, this, I'm not sure what kind of double-barreled shotgun this is. If anybody in the comments knows, let me know. But about the double-barreled shotgun, this is not a Lupara. A Lupara is typically a sawn-off shotgun. But the Lupara is a signature weapon of the Sicilian Mafia. It's basically a sawn-off shotgun. And the reason that the Sicilian Mafia would use the Lupara as a form of execution is because, one, it was a sawn-off shotgun was something you could basically hide inside your jacket, your coat. You could walk around with that thing hidden, and people wouldn't see it. And when the sawn-off shotgun, when that thing goes off, that is going to make a really loud bang. Everybody's going to scream. Everybody's going to run away. And secondly, a shotgun, specifically a double-barreled shotgun, getting shot twice in the chest with that thing, that's going to leave a very unique wound. And the body is going to be destroyed. The person's body is going to be completely ripped up, getting shot twice with a double-barreled shotgun. And that's why the Sicilian Mafia used the Lupara, is specifically because it was their form of execution. So if somebody got shot twice with a double-barreled shotgun in broad daylight, like they just got gunned down with that thing, and you saw their body and it was all messed up, everybody in that town, village, city knew the Mafia did that. That was basically a message. So the reason they used the double-barreled shotguns was because people would see, it's the Mafia. These are the guys who did this. It was a terror. It was a terror weapon. So people would see bodies as completely destroyed by a double-barreled shotgun. That was basically the Mafia saying, we did this. And the most famous execution by a Lupara, the most famous person killed by a Lupara was the police chief actually in New Orleans, David Hennesy. And Hennesy was executed by Lupara. He actually survived, and he died like a day later in the hospital. And what ended up happening is there was a giant manhunt. There was two Mafia families in New Orleans. Angelo Bronte is actually, in Red Dead Redemption, is actually based on one of the Mafia bosses at that time. But there was a big manhunt, and what happened was the police in New Orleans, they rounded up hundreds of Italians and Italian Americans. And most of these guys had nothing to do with the Mafia. They were just rounding up people just for being Italian Americans, and they put them in a jail awaiting trial. And what happened was an angry mob of people stormed the jail and just murdered all the inmates. So there was an angry mob of people that just started murdering these Italian prisoners when most of them were just innocent people that had nothing to do with it. They were just arrested just for being Italian Americans. But that was one of the worst events that actually happened in New Orleans history. But I don't think this is a Lupara, because Luparas are double-barreled shotguns. And here, yeah, Mafia The Old Country. Summer 2025. So what I'll say about this here is we know GTA 6 is coming out 100% in the fall. also because of this. So we have even more proof that it's coming out in the fall, because Take-Two Interactive is not going to want to release. They're not going to want to release Mafia: The Old Country and GTA 6 in the summertime. They're not going to want to do that. It would be stupid. And if I was Take-Two Interactive, I wouldn't release I wouldn't let both games get released at the same time too, because what's going to happen is there's going to be people who would buy both games at the same time, but then there would be other people who are going to be like, I'm going to decide, do I want GTA 6 or do I want Mafia The Old Country? And most people are probably going to buy GTA 6, and Mafia The Old Country won't sell. So it will be better, ideally, to have Mafia The Old Country come out one season and then have GTA 6 come out another season. So you're going to have two open world crime games made by the same publisher, basically competing for sales. So it would be kind of stupid releasing them at the same time. But that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys like my breakdown. I know it's kind of long, but I wanted to talk a lot about this. And I love history, and I like reading about it. So I hope that you guys didn't find it too boring of me, breaking down some of the stuff. But if somebody can tell me more about the cars in the comments, and you can tell me what type of cars they are, I would really appreciate that. But if anybody is Italian, in the comments, I'm not Italian myself, but if anybody's Italian, let me know, how did I do good on the history of your country, like breaking down the divide in the country. I hope I did. But let me know if my historical analysis was good or not. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you did, drop a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.